when former U.S. President Donald Trump went on his tour of the Middle East, many people thought it would just be a regular political trip with some speeches and photo sessions. But in reality, the trip was packed with far more depth, deals, and plans than most people realized at the time. And what actually happened behind closed doors turned out to be a serious power play involving politics, defense, money, religion, and global influence, making it a turning point not just for U.S. relations in the region, but also for the entire political balance of the Middle East. And while the White House tried to keep things simple in their public statements, focusing on general diplomacy and unity, what Trump and his team were really doing was laying the groundwork for a brand new political strategy that included arms deals worth billions of dollars, support for controversial leaders, and attempts to unite Sunni nations against both terrorism and Iran's growing influence. So let's break down how extremism and radical ideologies, framing the U.S. as a friend rather than an enemy of Islam, which was a major change in tone from his campaign days where he had made tough statements against Muslims. So this shift helped him appeal to the leaders of Sunni-majority countries, creating a sense of unity that would later be used to form a regional alliance. And while people back home focused on Trump's dance with a sword and flashy moments, few noticed that the trip included secret discussions about forming a NATO-like military alliance in the Middle East, where countries would combine forces to fight terrorism. And this idea was later seen in the Abraham Accords and normalization of ties between Israel and Arab nations, which started forming during this period of quiet diplomacy. And Trump's visit to Israel and Palestine further added layers to the story, because although peace talks didn't move forward officially, Trump managed to build relationships with key players like Netanyahu and Abbas, planting seeds for later negotiations. And during his time in Jerusalem, he became the first sitting U.S. president to visit the Western Wall, sending a strong message of support to Israel, while also keeping open the door to Palestinian dialogue, which was a balancing act that very few presidents had managed before. And even though critics back home called the trip chaotic or accused Trump of lacking focus, the leaders in the Middle East were paying close attention, because they saw a president who was ready to take sides, make bold moves, and commit to deals. And this helped reestablish the U.S. as a major power broker in the region, after years of cautious diplomacy. And when Trump later visited the Vatican and Europe on the same tour, he carried with him the momentum from his Middle East trip, showing that he was trying to reshape America's image globally as a deal-maker, rather than just a peace talker. And even though not all his moves were successful or long-lasting, the impact of the Middle East tour was clear. It sent a message to allies and enemies alike that Trump's America would operate differently, prioritize strategic partnerships over traditional alliances, and use military, economic, and religious influence to redraw the map of power in the region. And many of the ripple effects from that trip are still being felt today, from Saudi Arabia's more aggressive foreign policy to increased pressure on Iran. And even though the White House back then tried to simplify the narrative and downplay the complexity, the truth is that Trump's Middle East tour was a major diplomatic mission hidden inside a media spectacle. And it worked because it gave Arab leaders a chance to see a U.S. president who wasn't afraid to shake things up, sign big deals, and challenge the status quo. And for Trump, it was a chance to present himself as a global leader who could charm kings, challenge rivals, and dominate headlines while rewriting the rules of diplomacy. So,